Right, so here's one of the final drives for the E55 AMG. I'm just here dropping the car off for a pre-purchase inspection. So the new owner has paid a deposit already, so everything is just waiting on the inspection. I'm pretty sure everything's going to be fine, so I think the car is pretty much as good as sold. So I'm hoping to do a bit of a review before it is sold, just so that you guys can get a feel of what it's like having an E55 AMG. Alright everyone, so now we are in the E55 AMG and we're now driving home from the pre-purchase inspection that the new buyer has just had done. And there wasn't really much wrong with the car at all, just the rear main seal, you know, that's a very common issue on these cars, and you know, a few little wear items as well, but nothing major at all. I think they were pretty happy with the condition, which is great. So I really want to talk about what this car is like. You know, what is it like to drive? Because you know, not many people have actually driven these cars before, and you know, I read all sorts of stuff, I read all sorts of articles, you know, obviously we watch Top Gear and Fifth Gear, you know, and all of those sort of shows. But what is it actually like to drive? Well, that's what it's like to drive. It is insane. This car is honestly the most crazy thing that you'll ever drive, ever sit in, because you don't expect it. You know, you don't expect the car to be fast. You know, it's super comfortable, it's super luxurious. It's basically the best, you know, one of the best quality riding cars that I've ever been in. You know, I've owned a Rolls Royce before, and the Rolls Royce was like floating on the cloud. Absolutely, you know, it was fantastic. But this is like a normal car, not a Rolls Royce, but it rides absolutely perfectly over all sorts of bumps and over all sorts of terrain. It's really stable, it's really smooth, you know, so it feels like a Mercedes. It feels like an old school, comfortable, luxury car. But you have that incredible sounding, you know, incredibly characterful, naturally aspirated AMG V8 under the bonnet. And it just doesn't quite fit. And it just doesn't really make sense, but somehow it actually all works really well together, because when you're driving the car, it's not a sports car, obviously, it's a luxury limo, you know, even though it's quite light for a modern car, it's only 1.5 tons, it's definitely not a sports car. You know, you can't chuck it around the corners that easily. It's a really long car as well, so you know, everything happens kind of in slow motion, but having that engine means that it can cruise, it can relax, you know, it's kind of like someone, you know, lifting 10 kgs, and if you can lift 100 kgs, 10 kgs is really easy. You know, you don't have to even stress about it. So that's the difference. You know, it's actually the torque and the power really helps with everyday situations. So things like overtaking, just going up a hill and not having to change gear. You know, it's just a nice feeling. It's a really kind of old school luxury feeling. You know, it's not like these days where you get all these buttons and gizmos and you know, all sorts of different things on your car that you don't really need. You know, these old school cars, the main thing is the power, because you know, this car, when it was new, it was faster than the Ferraris back in the day. You know, the 0 to 60 and the top speed were absolutely incredible, and this kind of started the whole you know, modern super saloon, super sedan trend. You know, like the modern M5 and this car, the E55 AMG, really started that trend. Having a big V8, having a big engine in a family, you know, sedan. You know, back in those days, you know, people didn't buy SUVs for a family car. People bought these cars for a family car. So this was literally like grandpa's Mercedes, but you know, it's been turned up to 11. You know, the kind of metaphor that I would like to use to describe it, it's very similar to having a really incredible meal. So like a degustation meal at the best restaurant, wherever it is you're going, and you know, obviously you've got wine pairings and you've got drinks, you've got, you know, canapes, you've got, you know, your awesome degustation food, and you get to meet the chef, all that sort of stuff. You know, top end experience, but you also get, you know, pure unadulterated wasabi sprinkled all over the meal. You know, obviously if you like wasabi. If you don't like wasabi, then choose your spice of choice. You know, it's basically a fantastic thing, and then you've just made it somewhat better, you know, a lot better, just by sprinkling a little bit of extra stuff on top. You know, so here we are, we've got a little corner, and then we just put the foot down and we just go. Oh jeez. Yeah, this car will get you in trouble very quickly. It's Yeah, no one would even know. No one. You pull up to someone next to a traffic light, they think it's some old crazy, you know, person that's really into, you know, all rally cars or, you know, whatever, DTM, you know. But then you put your foot down and everyone's like, it's just gone, you know. And I've actually driven the car with my friend who rides a motorbike, and he was driving his motorbike, and even he said, wow, this car is actually pretty quick. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's a fast car, you know, you can't tell, but it's a fast car. So that's what I really love about the car, is the fact that it's luxurious and it's fast. And the interior as well, I didn't really think I would enjoy the Condor two-tone interior, but to be honest, I've really grown to like it because it's so different to every other car around, you know. Like these days you get grey interiors, you know, you get like beige interiors. I don't know what's up with beige interiors. Someone needs to do something about that. And it's just kind of boring. And again, this car kind of started the whole trend of, you know, modern cars being a little bit different for the performance version anyway. But it's not super obvious. Like when you look at it from the outside, you can't really tell it's an AMG, which is great. But from the inside, you know, there's a few like AMG logos on the steering wheel, on the center gauge cluster. You know, you've got the two-tone interior, and it just makes you feel a little bit more special. You know, like you've actually spent a considerable amount of money on this car. It actually makes you feel really special, and I think that's something that is missing from cars today as well, because when you spend $200,000 on a car today, does it really make you feel that special? You know, like a new AMG, it looks pretty much the same as, you know, any other AMG out there, well, any other Mercedes out there, sorry. And I think they've really diluted the AMG line. You know, like nowadays you can get AMG wheels, you can get AMG this, you can get AMG that, even on a C200 or even an A-Class you can get AMG stuff. But back when this car was released, you know, this is the thing, you got to think about the perspective of when this car was released. Back when this car was released, you couldn't even get wheels, you couldn't even get monoblocks, you know, pretty much. You might be able to in some markets, but you know, I've hardly ever seen, you know, just a normal E-Class that has monoblocks. So all of these parts, all of these cars are now becoming incredibly rare, and subsequently the prices are going, you know, really way up. So you know, that's the other good thing about the car, is that there's an exclusivity about the car. Like not many people have E55 AMGs, you know, they just aren't around. You know, back when this car was new, it was $200,000. I know this because I met the guy that actually sold the car brand new, right, to the owner of a company in New Zealand here. And $200,000 in the year 2000, that would have been a pretty decent house, you know, in New Zealand in the year 2000. So that kind of puts it into a bit more perspective, you know, that this car is, it's not just a $200,000 car today. You know, the $200,000, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money, right? But $200,000 in the year 2000, 20 years ago, that was just an incredible amount of money, right? So instead of buying a house, you bought this car, right? So again, that just makes it so much more exclusive. It's very rare, and the quality as well. I love the quality of this car. Like the doors, you know, you can really feel that there's some really nice materials being made there, being used there. You know, there's just so many little things, little touches on this car that just really make it so different. But there's obviously things that I don't like about the car as well, you know. The fact that the transmission, it's reliable, but it's not the best transmission in the world, if I have to tell you. It is a little bit slower, it's a little bit clunky, but it works, you know, the transmission works, so that's the most important thing. You know, I don't like some of the materials that are used, you know, like in the boot, there's plastic all over the place, there's a little bit of plastic trim that always breaks. Luckily I was able to buy a new one. But yeah, there's definitely aspects of the car that I'm not super happy with. Also the handling is a bit funny, you know, it's kind of actually a really fast car, to be honest, like even in the corners, but the problem is you don't feel like it's going fast because you're so insulated from everything, right? So the sensation of speed is not really there. So if you want to try and drive it really fast, it's actually really difficult. It takes quite a bit of skill to figure out the limits of this car, because it doesn't really communicate with you. Like my Lotus, for example, it communicates everything through the steering wheel, whereas this obviously is a luxury cruiser, so you know it's not going to do that. The best thing for this car is definitely on long trips, right? So long trips, you can just cruise at 2000 RPM the whole time. You know, you put your foot down and it doesn't even have to change gear, and you're passing people and you're going up hills. Like now we're going over the Harbour Bridge, 1,800 RPM at 85-ish kilometers per hour. It's so easy, like it just feels like it's so relaxing. The stress levels just come way down when you drive this car. It's really fantastic as a big cruiser, but it's definitely not a sports car. If you're expecting a 350 horsepower, like sports car, no, it's not a sports car. You can drive it fast. It's not super happy when you drive it fast, but it's definitely more of a cruiser, a long distance luxury cruiser is what I would say. What else do I not like about the car? The brakes feel a bit funny. Maybe that's just my car. I've never actually driven another E55, but I think the Mercedes of this era, even the newer, the newer W210 E-Class, I've heard that the SBC, brakes, they feel really funny as well, right? So it's just this era of Mercedes. I think they were experimenting a little bit with different brake setups and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, it's not the best feeling brakes ever. So that's the other gripe that I have. But apart from that, I really don't have any other, things to say about the downsides or the disadvantages of having a car like this. This is one of the most reliable AMGs that you can buy as well. And it's, the parts, I found the parts are actually not super expensive. The things like body parts are fairly expensive if you buy them brand new, but you can also just buy them secondhand. I bought a bumper secondhand from the US, so that was really, saved me a lot of money. So yeah, I found the parts, because most of the parts are shared with other Mercedes, other E-classes, and even the C-class. A lot of engine parts, a lot of wear and tear items, and the transmission is used basically in every single car that Mercedes made back in those days. Even the Sprinter van used the same transmission. So I'm not actually worried about this car kind of going wrong, because it's actually pretty easy to repair. I was able to do most of the things on this car myself in my garage. I did have to use the hoist for some of the suspension work, but most of the work that we did was in the garage, and I didn't have to buy a special scanner or special tools or anything that was really that unique to this car, which is great. Like these old cars, and this is one of the reasons why I really want to keep my 147 GTA, is because these old cars, I think they're actually going to age very well. Whereas if you buy something newer, 20 years later, if you bought a newer E-Class or a newer S-Class, for example, 20 years later, I really doubt that, you're going to have everything working on the car, because there's definitely going to be things that break. So that's going to be a concern if you do buy a newer one, a newer Mercedes or a newer European car. So what else can I say about this car? The other great thing is the aircon is amazing. Honestly, for an older car, this car's aircon, like I had to spend a bit of money to repair the aircon. I had to get a new compressor, I had to get a new release valve, a new dryer, and get it regassed, which in New Zealand is not cheap. But now that it's all finished and it's all fixed, the aircon is amazing. Honestly, I have it on 1 bar for the fan. It goes up to 7 bars for the fan, right? And I usually have it on 1 bar for fan speed, and it's enough to cool the whole car. Even in summer, I have to turn the temperature up, It's enough to cool down the whole car. It's incredible. I've never ever been in a car that has such good climate control, aircon, all that sort of stuff. It's just that's even better than a new car, to be honest. It's really incredible. Yeah, so those are some of the pros and cons of this car, and I'm thinking about maybe making another video just showing you some of those things, right, and showing you some of the characteristics of this car, because there's some interesting stuff in here that you probably wouldn't normally see in a car. Like the car phone, for example, something that's really cool and unique, and it's a bit of a time capsule. So I guess I'm getting on to, why am I selling this car? I obviously really like it, and I wish I could keep it, to be honest, because I don't think I'll ever be able to buy another one ever again. You literally feel like such an amazing thing just driving this thing around, because you feel like you're on top of the world. It's just such a good feeling. Well, the reason I'm selling this car is because I can't get rid of my 147 GTA. That's the car that kind of started the whole YouTube thing. And you know, I've done so much to the GDA. I thought about selling it as well, and you know, I'm selling the Lotus and selling this car. I thought about selling the GDA as well, but I just can't, you know, because I would never be able to buy another car like that ever again. If I bought another GDA, I would just be ending up to do the same thing, you know. I'd do exactly the same sort of stuff that I've done to mine. So I didn't really see the point of buying another one later on, you know, because I obviously would end up buying another one if I sold my one. And you know, this car, even though it's fantastic, it just doesn't quite fit in my 3-car garage, because you know, I've had 4 cars for a little while, but ideally 3 cars would be the best, right? Because I've only got room at home for 3 cars, you know, 2 cars in the garages and 1 car outside in the driveway. So having 4 cars, it's a bit of a pain, because I essentially have to, you know, go and swap cars if I wanted to drive the other one that's in storage. And I don't know how long that storage situation is going to last for. You know, it might go at any time. You know, I don't have any guarantees there. So then, you know, I'm paying not too much money at the moment, but then if that storage option goes, I'm going to have to pay $100 a week just to store my car somewhere. And I just don't have time to drive them all. You know, that's the other problem as well. You know, I'm sure a lot of you guys have the same sort of sentiment. Once you get over 2 or 3 cars, you just don't end up driving them. And also, you know, my life is changing a little bit. You know, like during lockdown, it was okay. I was able to work on a lot of cars, and you know, during the pandemic, because I was stuck in New Zealand anyway. But now that the borders are starting to open, hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, I'm starting to think, well, you know, I can't just keep fixing cars. I can't just keep doing these DIY videos forever. So I'm going to have to start doing some other things, you know, start focusing on other parts of my life as well. So that's the other side of it as well. You know, that's part of the reason why I'm getting a new car, because it's a really fantastic opportunity. I will talk about that shortly and show you guys what I'm getting. That's an amazing opportunity that I'm receiving to be able to buy a car like that brand new. But having a new car means that I can focus on other things. I don't have to do DIY videos anymore, although I probably will still do DIY videos on the 147 GTA and also probably on the new car, because the new car, no doubt, I will probably start modifying very quickly as well. Yeah, so that's the other side of it as well, is that, you know, I'm probably going to be pivoting a little bit. You know, I'm not going to be doing as many DIY sort of how to fix these sort of things videos, and also, you know, that takes a lot of time too. So I think it's a good time. It's a good time for me to sell this car. The other side of it too is that, you know, I need to have a wagon as my main daily driver. I thought about using this car as my daily driver, because honestly, it's as comfortable and as luxurious, and it's reliable. So honestly, I could use it as a daily driver potentially. But the problem is, it's not a wagon. If I had an E55 wagon, I would think about maybe, you know, selling my daily and keeping the E55 wagon. But I can't do that because I need to have a wagon. I go mountain biking, you know, I go on road trips, I go snowboarding well, not all the time anymore, but I used to go snowboarding all the time. And it's just really handy having a wagon, because you can literally chuck everything in the back and you can do whatever you like with a wagon. So, you know, it just doesn't really fit in. So yes, I can take this to road trips and I can really enjoy it. I can really, you know, have fun with it. But the wagon can actually do road trips as well. It's a little bit less powerful, obviously. It's a C200 instead of an E55, and it's not quite as luxurious. But in terms of, you know, A to B sort of driving, the C200 wagon has been really, really good as well. You know, I've had that car for 5 years and it hasn't really even gone wrong. So yeah, it's a bit sad. Honestly, I feel quite emotional about this, because this is pretty much the first car that I finished, you know, the first project car that I finished that I'm selling. So it is a bit sad, you know, and I've put a lot of effort into this. You know, there's been so many memories and so many things that we found out about these cars, and we've learned so much about these cars too. So it does feel rather sad. But that's the way it is, you know. I can't keep all the cars forever. I can't keep buying, you know, more and more cars. I can't keep, you know, doing DIY videos forever either. I just don't have time to do all that stuff. You know, it's incredible. Like, time is probably the most precious thing at the moment. So it has to go. But I think the new owner, he hasn't actually confirmed that he's buying it. He's put a deposit down, but it sounds like it's going to a really good home. He's a lifetime Mercedes person, and apparently he's been looking for one of these in black for a long time. So you know, it's probably the best person that I could ask for the car to go to. But yeah, it's definitely bittersweet. You know, it's definitely bittersweet. You know, it's a $200,000 luxury limo that is faster than a Ferrari in a straight line. You know, when else can you possibly get a car like that? You know, you just can't buy a car like that anymore. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed the content that I've created for the E55 AMG. There's not too much content left because there wasn't really that much wrong with the car anyway. It was just mostly the things that I've already shown. But I thought I would do a review for you guys as well, because you know, not many people actually end up experiencing these cars for themselves. But yeah, I absolutely love the car. Absolutely love the car. If it was an ideal scenario, ideal world, I would definitely keep it. And I really wish that in the future I get to buy another AMG. I do want to eventually replace my daily driver, the C200, with an AMG as well of some description, an AMG wagon. But you know, that time has not come yet, and it probably won't come for a little while because I'm getting the new car, and that's costing a lot of money, a lot of money. Yeah, so I probably won't be doing any more car projects for a little while, but that's probably good for me anyway. So anyway, hopefully you know, you'll still stick around for the channel. There's going to be a lot more other content coming, and there's always going to be cars. I can't get away from cars, you know, ever. It's going to be part of my life for the rest of my life. And hopefully you guys will be along for the journey for the next stage of what's happening. All right, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.